So today, we're going to crack open a chapter from an ancient text that honestly reads like a modern-day survival guide for avoiding trouble. Now, this isn't a sermon. Think of it as a deep dive into Proverbs 6 as a piece of cultural wisdom, packed with some surprisingly timeless advice on stuff we deal with every day, from debt to betrayal. Let's get into it.
And you might be thinking, really, what can a text that's thousands of years old possibly teach me about my life today? Well, think about it. Risky financial deals, that constant struggle to just get things done, social drama, the absolute chaos of infidelity. These are new problems, and as we're about to see, this ancient chapter had a lot to say about them.
All right, so here's the game plan. We're going to break this down into 4 big warnings from the source. We'll start with financial traps, then talk about work ethic, then we'll profile a certain kind of social troublemaker, and we'll wrap up with a pretty intense warning about personal conduct. So, first up,
The danger of a promise. Right out of the gate, the text hits us with a super specific financial warning. It's about making a pledge for someone else, a practice it calls striking hands. Let's figure out what that really meant. So what are we even talking about here? The old-timey word is surety, or putting up security. For us, the closest thing is co-signing a loan. You are legally on the hook for someone else's debt if they bail. And according to this text, that is an incredibly dangerous place to be. And get this, the language they use is super intense. It doesn't just say it's a bad business move, it says you are trapped, you're ensnared. It's like you're an animal that's just walked right into a hunter's trap. This isn't just a favor for a friend, it's a disaster you created with your own words.
so if you've made this mistake, what do? The advice is, well, pretty frantic. It's not send a polite email. It's humble yourself, plead your case, don't even sleep until this is fixed. You can almost feel the panic in the words. The message is simple. Get out and get out now.
And this image just says it all, doesn't it? This is the level of danger we're talking about. This isn't about being polite or worrying about someone's feelings. It's about pure survival. You are the prey, and you have to escape this trap with the same desperation a gazelle or a bird would use to fight for its life.
Okay, next up, we're shifting gears from money to something a bit more personal, diligence. And to make its point about laziness, the text points us to a surprisingly tiny teacher. Yeah, you heard that right. The source literally tells the reader, go look at an ant. It's such a simple command, but it forces you to stop and think, okay, what is it about this tiny insect that I'm supposed to see? What does its life say about mine? And the comparison they draw is just crystal clear, right? You've got the ant on one side, it's self-motivated, it's thinking ahead, preparing for the future when things are good, and then you have the slacker who's just all about that immediate comfort, that little bit of extra rest, ignoring what's coming.
And the punchline? Whoa! It's not that poverty will kind of sneak up on you. No, it says it will hit you like an armed robber, like a bandit jumping out of the shadows. The point is that procrastination doesn't lead to a slow, gentle decline. It leads to a sudden, violent crisis. All right, so we've covered personal finance and work ethic. Now the focus zooms out from you to your community. The text gives this really detailed sketch of a character it calls a worthless person. Basically, someone who just loves to stir the pot and create conflict.
And what's fascinating is how this person is described. It's not about open conflict. It's all about these subtle, sneaky things. A wink, a tap of the foot, pointing a finger. This isn't someone yelling on the street corner. It's a manipulator who uses shady body language and schemes behind the scenes to tear people apart. So right after painting this picture of the troublemaker, the source just completely shifts gears. The tone gets way more serious. It moves from describing a type of person to listing specific actions that are called an abomination. It's a major escalation.
The text does this really interesting thing here. It says there are 6 things, actually scratch that, there are 7 things that it considers an abomination. It's building the drama. So what made the list?
Okay, so here they are. It starts with internal stuff, arrogance, haughty eyes. And then it gets into actions like lying, violence, scheming. But check out that last one,
one who stirs up discord. Think about that. The act of intentionally creating conflict in a community is put on the same level as murder. For a society where you had to trust your neighbor to survive, someone who destroyed that trust was a threat to everyone. And that brings us to the final and probably the most intense warning in this whole chapter. The text uses some seriously powerful images to talk about the consequences of adultery, framing it as basically an act of pure self-destruction. But before it gets into the warning itself, the text sets the stage. It says this wisdom is like a lamp or a light for your path. The idea is that these teachings aren't just a list of don'ts, they're a tool to help you see the danger up ahead before you fall right into it.
And here we go, the first of two rhetorical questions that are just impossible to argue with. I mean, the answer is obviously no, right? That's the point. Some choices have natural, unavoidable, and really painful consequences. In this view, adultery isn't a gamble. It's like hugging fire. You will get burned.
And the second question just hammers it home. It's all about self-inflicted damage. This isn't about whether you get caught by someone else. The argument is that the act itself is what destroys you. You can't walk this path and somehow come out unharmed. And this part is really, really interesting. The text makes this wild comparison. It says, we can kind of get why a thief might steal if they're starving. Society might not even despise him for it. There's a twisted logic, and the debt can technically be repaid. But adultery? That's seen as something else entirely. A crime not of need, but of poor judgment. One that causes permanent damage to your reputation and to yourself. It's a stain that never washes out. And finally, the text gets brutally honest about the social reality of the situation. It talks about the absolute, unforgiving rage of a betrayed spouse. A person who will not take any money, will not accept any apology on their day of vengeance. So the consequences aren't just internal. They're external, social, and potentially very, very violent. So there you have it. From co-signing loans to sowing discord to walking on hot coals, this ancient chapter lays out a series of what it sees as self-destructive traps. It holds up its wisdom like a lamp to light the way in a dangerous world. Which, leaves us with one big question, doesn't it? If the light is right there, what happens when you decide to walk in the dark anyway?